The golden rays of morning crept through the wide windows of Maplewood Diner, washing over the smell of sizzling bacon and coffee. The place had always been a safe corner of the small American town, the kind of spot where truckers shared stories. Old couples smiled over pancakes, and strangers felt like friends. But that morning something was different. The light was soft, yet the air felt heavy, like kindness itself was being tested. At the booth near the window sat a young woman named Clara Evans. She was 21, bright-eyed, her brown hair tied neatly in a ponytail. But unlike most people her age, Clara couldn't walk. She'd been in a wheelchair since birth, a result of a spinal condition that limited her movement, but never her dreams. She came to the diner every Saturday morning for the same thing, a plate of blueberry pancakes and a little piece from a world that didn't always understand her. That morning, as she rolled into her usual spot, a group of 4 teenage boys sat at the next booth, loud, careless, and full of the kind of confidence that comes from never knowing pain. One of them, Tyler Brooks, leaned back with his baseball cap turned backward and smirked when he noticed Clara. "Look, guys," he whispered, nodding toward her. "Guess we've got a traffic jam in here." His friends snickered. Clara heard it but tried to ignore them. She was used to stares, whispers, and the cruel jokes that followed her wherever she went. Still, she kept her focus on her pancakes, pretending not to care. But Tyler wasn't satisfied. He leaned over, tapping his spoon against her table. "Hey," he said, voice dripping with mockery. "Bet it's hard eating those when your hands are shaking like that." Clara froze. Her hands really were trembling, not from fear, but from the effort of holding steady. The diner went quiet. A few people looked up but quickly turned away. No one wanted to get involved. That was always how it went. Then, in a moment that would scar Clara's memory, Tyler reached across the table and slapped her plate to the floor. Blueberries and syrup splattered across the white tiles. His friends burst out laughing. One of them pushed the back of her wheelchair just a little, not enough to hurt her, but enough to make her feel small. Shifted uneasily. Clara opened her mouth but couldn't speak. Tyler chuckled, pretending to be unfazed. "Nothing happened, man. Just breakfast." Roar's eyes locked on him, cold and unblinking. "You sure about that?" Tyler swallowed hard. The diner was dead silent. Even the ceiling fan seemed to stop spinning. Roar walked closer, his heavy boots echoing on the tiles. "Stand up," he said to Tyler. Tyler hesitated. "Why?" "Because I said so." The boy rose slowly. His friends followed, their bravado melting into nervous fidgeting. Roar leaned close enough for only Tyler to hear, his voice low, calm, but sharp as a blade. "You think it's funny to hurt people who can't fight back?" Tyler didn't answer. His jaw twitched. Roar's tone stayed quiet, but it carried the weight of command. "Apologize." The boys looked at each other, unsure. The silence stretched. Then, with every pair of eyes in the diner watching, Tyler finally muttered, "Sorry." Roar's eyes narrowed. "Say it like you mean it." Tyler's voice cracked. "I'm sorry." Clara's lips parted slightly. She didn't know what to say. She hadn't expected anyone, especially a biker gang, to stand up for her. Roar straightened, turned toward her, and gave a small nod. Then he pulled a chair over and sat beside her. "You didn't deserve that," he said quietly. "And I'm sorry the world has people like that in it." Clara finally found her voice. "You didn't have to do that," she whispered. "There's a silence we all carry inside us, a silence that whispers, 'It's not my business,' a silence that convinces us to look away when something wrong unfolds in front of our eyes. In that diner, when Clara was insulted, everyone saw it happen. Dozens of eyes witnessed it, yet no one spoke. Not because they agreed, but because silence felt safer, easier, but silence is a quiet agreement with injustice. Sergeant Roar understood something most people forget, that kindness is not weakness and courage is not loud. Courage is that moment when your heart tells you, stand up, and you do, even if your voice shakes. You see, life gives us moments, small, simple moments, where we can either be a part of the crowd or be the one who stands apart. And sometimes that one small act changes everything. Clara found her strength that day not because Roar saved her, but because someone reminded her that she was worth defending. It wasn't about who was right or wrong, It was about doing what's right even when it's hard. When Roar said, "Silence helps no one," he didn't just speak to the people in that diner. He spoke to all of us, because every single day, in our homes, schools, streets, and online, we see injustice, disrespect, and cruelty. And every single day we get a choice, to stay silent or to speak up. Maybe you can't change the whole world, but you can change one moment. And one moment, one voice, can ripple further than you imagine. Years later, Clara's drawing of that diner hung on the wall as a reminder, not of the insult, but of the courage that silenced cruelty, of a man who stood up when everyone else sat down. So, when you see something wrong, remember Maplewood Diner. Remember Clara's trembling hands. Remember Roar's calm, steady voice, because courage doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just stands up quietly and changes a life forever.